All right, joining me now is independent journalist Matt Taibbi, a Substack author and podcaster. It's good to see you, brother. It's been a minute.
Good to see you, Chris.
So these concerns, everybody loves conspiracies these days. I'm not so sure that these investigations aren't done in a way that winds up intentionally or unintentionally helping the former president, to be honest, because every time there's a swing, it seems to expose the fact that they go after him with what seems to be at or below a level of anything that would be impressive to people reviewing the documents. What's your take on this?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I'm obviously not a fan of Donald Trump. I wrote a book about the guy called Insane Clown President. But, my feeling is if you're going to take the very extreme step of indicting somebody who's the likely nominee of the opposition party, the charge has to meet two tests. It has to be extremely serious and it has to be an airtight case. And I think both of these cases fail on both of those points.
Yeah, a buddy of mine who's a very smart guy and a lawyer, but, just a kind of consumer of all things relevant like yourself. He was like, hey, I don't care that it's during the election. The fact that you're running shouldn't shield you. Maybe he's running because he knows it's his best defense on these things. Maybe, but I think that to the majority, the optics are terrible. If you're swinging at somebody during an election and you don't have what we deem the goods. Now, what does that look like in this case? Do you think it comes down to, well, what are the documents he was keeping?
Well, again, I mean, I think if you are a person who grew up in a third world country, you would recognize this kind of thing as something that happens in a not entirely free society. So that's the optics of this are terrible. I mean, there's no way around it. Also, you have to consider the context. Barack Obama, who I voted for twice, set the record for the use of the Espionage Act against leakers. He used it against journalists. There's also the case involving Julian Assange, which a lot of people think is an abuse of power. That's an Espionage Act case. This case, has the whiff of that. It's the kind of thing where it's an extremely serious felony that can put somebody away for a lot of years. That really, to the average person, looks like it's kind of a technicality, and I just don't see how it's going to redound to their benefit in the election year.
One of the big takeaways for me, and just to be clear with the audience, what I was telling Matt in private, I was worried for him and my buddy Schellenberger with the I don't know Weiss as well, but I was like, oh, I'm worried, how this is going to play, that Elon Musk is involved. How's it going to play that not everybody gets to see the stuff, that the transparency is not there? How much weight will you have to carry on that? And I was worried for you guys because I respect what you do so much, and I kind of feel like this is all an extension of that. Like even the fact that the Department of Justice didn't come out and say he'd been indicted. I know the typical protocol is to tell the defendant and let them deal with it so they don't feel hoodwinked. This ain't that situation. And what do you think about the need right now among the masses for hyper transparency, hyper communication from power about why and what and proof?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is the kind of thing, that's why there's been so much attention to the weaponization of government committee. I think of myself as kind of an ordinary, kind of middle of the road person. I was a regular old ACLU liberal. I was very much not a conspiratorial thinker. But in the last year or so, I've had a couple of weird incidents involving the IRS. I had a member of a congressional committee threaten me with jail over, basically a typo. And these things look like abuses of power. They make me think twice about my entire impression of government. I think a lot of Trump voters and a lot of people who are, followers of the Green Party even, or Tulsi Gabbard, I think they have the same kind of impression that there are abuses of authority going on, and that's not a good look.
What's the fix? Matt, what do you think the fix is?
Oh, the fix? Well, I just think they need to be more transparent. And, look, in the case of Donald Trump, if you're going to pick a case and you really think that this is a person who needs to be in jail, I think you got to pick a really serious case. I mean, I think it had to be connected to January 6th or voter intimidation in Georgia or something like that. That's something the ordinary voter can say, all right, I get it. You got to go to trial over that. That's really, really serious. Let's see if they have the evidence for that. And I think people would accept that. But these kinds of cases, paying off a former prostitute and, now in in this case, the retention of records, it's just not the same kind of thing.
Matt Taibbi, I love what you do. More importantly, I love why you do it. You're courting controversy, and that always makes me worried for my friends. But I appreciate the questions that you're asking. I appreciate what you're bringing up. You're always welcome on my show. Thank you for joining me on a very important night.
Thanks so much.
All right, Matt. Hey, thank you for watching. Please go to newsnationnow.com, newsnationnow.com, and you can find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button down below. Then you will get more of NewsNation's fact-driven coverage.